I know that some of you are in the back. Sorry about that, but man, is it great to see the turnout. I hope nobody broke their butts on the ice out there coming in. It's been a heck of a winter. I'm going to lead off tonight. Thank you again for all coming. For those members that aren't able to be here, we are taping this presentation so they may enjoy it at their leisure. Tonight, we are going to present membership level offerings and finance. Before we do, I'd like to just make a few opening comments. Like the first town hall meeting, we'd like to ask everyone to hold their questions or comments until the end of the presentation. And during the Q&A session, please realize that there's probably a few people that are going to want to say something, so try to keep your responses short. Membership level. It's the driver of our club. It's the lifeblood. We've got multiple revenue streams coming in from our dues, from our capital assessment, from golf, from carts, food and beverage, events. Everything is driven off our membership level. It's the health of our club. The optimal number that I think all boards and pretty much everybody agrees with is we need to be at approximately 325 members. Your club in the past has tried various marketing approaches to get new members into this club to get us to that healthy number, to the point where we've actually done highly discounted plans, which in hindsight weren't the thing to do, because the people that took advantage of those plans ended up paying less than we do. And when the plan was over, so were they. Last year, we didn't do a highly discounted plan. We had a net loss of 15 members. And as we are here tonight, we're currently at 279 members at this club. But keep in mind, we'll pick some up in the spring, we always do, but we're way south of where we need to be. We don't have a lot of confidence in getting to 225 doing the things that we've been doing. So what do we do? What do we all do when we're faced with a little uncertainty, maybe a little fear? Don't we do our research and go out and talk to others, knowing that we may need to make a decision into the future? That's exactly what your board did this year. Did our research. The experts tell us that things have changed, that potential members want more for their families, particularly if they're young, that dining preferences have changed, that they want different types of events, and of course they tell us that the game of golf is declining in popularity, particularly with the young. And then we've got our own little special issue where we compete against 3 city courses that are subsidized by the taxpayers. At the same time we're doing research, we start talking to others. John Potter opens up communication with 14 other clubs in our area, and we start trading information. We've been trading information all year long. Stuff's been flying back and forth. We've been asking them, okay, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? You got a pool. What's it cost you to run the pool? What's it cost you for labor? How's your food and beverage work? What's your margin on your food and beverage? We have been digging in depth with other clubs, similar clubs in this area that have the type of amenities that we're proposing in this project. It's interesting that not one of the 14 clubs said, "What are you guys thinking?" None of them said, "Don't do it." In fact, 3 of them said, not only should do it, you have to do it for the financial viability of your club. So the board's like getting all this information, doing this research, and we get more positive about the project. So we go to work on the first town hall meeting. And the goal of the first town hall meeting was to show you this, create a vision, give you some high-level numbers around it, and to tell you the truth, we didn't know if the membership was going to throw up on it or not. Not everybody liked it, but after that meeting, we got pretty positive feedback. So we went to work on the information that we're going to present tonight. So this whole thing has been a series of steps, very careful steps. So we're going to ask for a vote of confidence before the start of the equity meeting on February 21st. We'll be mailing out proxy ballots. We hope that every single equity member votes, either for confidence or for not. If we obtain a vote of confidence, that doesn't necessarily mean this project's going to happen. Because the next year's board is going to be tasked with coming up with formalized debt financing, raising a substantial amount of money as a down payment on this project. They're going to go ahead and do marketing initiatives to pre-sell memberships, to test the waters, to make sure that there is demand that we believe is out there for this product. And we'll have to do final design of the building and make sure that we've got all our costs nailed down to the, I won't say penny, but pretty darn close. If any of these things don't happen, this project's not going to happen. Your board's not going to let it. We know that there's some people, some of us that aren't for that project, for this project. We understand that and appreciate it. Like anything, there's pros and cons, there's risk rewards. But I'll tell you, every single member on your board, all 12 of them, believe that there's less risk with this project than doing nothing at all. We're pretty darn excited about this project, and we're very confident it'll work. But as strange as it may sound, I'd rather not be here. And I know the board feels the same way, and you probably do too. We thought it was the right thing to do. We think there is a problem looming on the horizon. We wanted to be proactive. We didn't want to kick the can down the road. And we wanted to bring it to your attention and essentially challenge our membership about the future of our club. I hope everybody understands that. So in closing, I think we all know that sometimes in business and in life, there becomes a time when one must reinvent themselves based upon a changing landscape. Your board feels that this time has arrived for this club. I want to thank everyone sincerely thank everyone and from the board, myself, for your time and consideration with this project. Let's get started. Thank you very much.
This is taped now. Oh, can I take it out? My name is Brian Cornelison, and I want to thank Jeff for that, and I want to thank everybody for being here. You know, there's two things about this. It's good to see you guys all, and you know what else is really great is to see how much fun everybody seems to be having socializing, and it's great to see that. So I'm going to open up talking about kind of our status quo and kind of where we're at. So as a board, what we did is we wanted to look at where we are and where we've been. So go ahead and flip to that next slide. So what we've done is we took our information, with the exception of 2009, which is an estimate, but we think it's fairly close, and calculated our net cash flows, and this is all based on our financial data that's prepared by Rudd & Company. Okay, so we've looked back over the years, and as you can see, 2007, 8, and 9 are kind of some crazy years. We have huge cash out, kind of little cash in, then a bunch of cash in. So let's go over those real quick. The first thing is that the membership in 2007 and 8 was extremely high, probably as high as it's ever been in this club. Great numbers in terms of revenues. The second thing is that over that period of 2007 and 8, the club spent $500,000 in capital expenditures. Okay, so we spent $500,000 on improvements. We didn't have to borrow any money for that. We didn't have to borrow any money because we had huge membership numbers. The other thing that we did is in 2008 is when they instituted the capital assessment. Your $40 a month that you pay now, that's when they instituted that capital assessment. So that's how they covered those huge capital expenses that they made over those years. In 2009, they were getting the capital assessment, but we just spent $500,000, so there weren't a lot of capital expenditures. You can see we go through 10, 11, 12. Our capital expenditures were up a little bit, but they were, we were able to spend a little bit of money because we had a pretty good cash reserve from 2009. Excuse me. As we get to the more recent years, we go 2014 and 15, we have a little bit of a positive cash flow. But that's really come at a price of capital expenditures, okay? We have been able to do that, but it's been a little bit tight, and we've really had to monitor how much we spend on capital. So that is that's worked, but it's not a long-term solution, okay? So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is going to kind of talk a little bit about what Jeff talked about how important membership levels are to us as a club, okay? So what we've done is, for this slide, is we prepared a budget in the middle of December when our membership was at 285 members. We've taken that budget and we've extrapolated it onto our 279 members that we have now. So you can see that right now with 279 members, with our current budget and our current structure, we would be short $76,000 in cash. Okay, which is $275 a member. Okay, now let's take that, and as Jeff said, he threw out the 325 number, but let's take that and say, let's add 10 members. We think we're going to add some in the spring. We believe that. Let's add 10 members. Well, we add 10 members and get us to 290. We're almost at break even. If we add 20 members and get us to 300, which is a pretty good goal. I mean, that's, as we look back at our memberships, that's a floating rate we've been at. Okay, we can have a positive cash flow and we can start to be sustainable. Okay, we need more than that to really function well, but we can be sustainable. The problem is if we flip to the other side and say, okay, we have 279 members and let's say we lose 10 members. Okay, now we have a shortfall of $135,000 and $504 per member. And at 20 members, it's just out of control. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is that as we look at our budget and we look at our expenditures, we have some variable expenditures, okay? We have some payroll, we have some food and beverage, we have some things we can adjust on the golf course. But overall, we still have a fairly large, I'm gonna say a nut to crack in this, in that we need to have a minimum amount of members. And as we get to that 290, if you take that 290 as a break even, well, everybody that goes above that, most of that membership goes right down to the bottom line, because we don't have that many more additional costs. Now the same thing happens as we lose 10 members, it all comes straight from the bottom line. Our costs are not changing that much with members. You know, the cost to have mowers, the cost to do a lot of this stuff, it is what it is. We can make some adjustments with labor, but even that gets a little bit tough. I mean, there's some things that we can do, but we have a lot of fixed costs. We don't have a lot of variable costs. So that's kind of what we want to portray to you guys, is that, okay, this is where we're at, and this is kind of how we run, you know. If that's why, you know, if you go from 300 members and we're making 41, well, you get us to 325, and we're in great shape. We're exactly where we want to be, okay? So that's kind of where I want to start off, and I'm going to turn some time over to Margot to talk about membership.
So in looking at all of this, one of the questions I think is, how much is this really going to cost us? What we did as, here we go, we're all gone. Hello? Hello? They want me to shut up already. Is it going?
Test.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. There have been numerous clubs that we visited, John, Kosha, Keisha, a bunch of them. They've done a lot of research on this. We've done a lot of research out of the area for clubs, what they charge, what they have, what their facilities are. So there's been a lot of information that has gone into this that we've developed for this fee structure. So what we came up with is currently your golf only, which is an equity, is $345 a month, which is an annual fee of $41.40. We don't have athletic, we don't have aquatic, we do have dining, which is $60 a month, $720. Looking at the future, the possibility of this going forward with a full access, which includes golf, fitness, simulator, pool, dining, the whole ball of wax is $60 a month. It's pretty cheap, $720 annually. If you opt to stay as a golf only, which still gives you golf and dining, which you have right now, it's $30 a month. That's how many cups of coffee? I don't know. $360. To go to an athletic and social non-equity, $168, 2016, which is your fitness, your pool, and your dining. Your aquatic social, non-equity again, $106, $1,270, which is your pool and your dining only. We've also still got the dining social, which is non-equity, $25 or $300 for dining. And as John shows, it includes your dues, your food, and your cap. It's a pretty nominal amount for the projected possibility that we could have and the additional people we could pull in here.
Thanks, Margot. So now we throw up these numbers and you say, okay, how do we get there? And that's what I get to talk about next. So we're going to move into the projected financials, but let's take it step by step. So the first thing that we've done is these are the projected costs, okay? So we've worked with Bateman Hall. Everybody knows that. They were at the first meeting, and they've developed this plan for us, and we've used them and we've explained to them, but look, we must stay on budget, okay? We have got to figure this out. We can't be outside of budget because obviously as we'll go through this, you'll understand that, you know, we have limitations on where we can go. So we have a budget, but we've also put in contingencies of almost $500,000 for the projected building costs only, okay? So the building itself, the pool, all that stuff is $3,750,000, okay? And that's with that contingency fee. They fine-tuned it. Now there's a lot of things that need to be decided still, but That's what they've come up with, and we feel like they have experience. They should be able to help us in coming up with some pretty realistic costs for that building. We've also estimated some additional furniture, fixtures, and equipment of $233,000. This is stuff like new furniture for the dining room, new furniture for the patio, pool furniture, some equipment for the kitchen, and some a grill room for the pool, things like that. Okay, so this is all of the other stuff that we're looking at. Okay, so that gives us a total project cost of just shy of $4 million. Okay, now we've got a down payment of $1 million because as we've talked to people and as we've thrown this out to other people in the banking industry and some other people are like, that's pretty much the minimum we would have to put down to even make this project work. So there is our total financed amount of $3 million. Okay, so that's how we've come up with that, and that's what we've used as we've done these projections. So now, Richard, if you'd go to the next slide, we're going to talk about our assumptions, okay? And I want to just say this. I'm going to read it just because I probably won't say it right. Okay, as I review these assumptions, please understand that this is where we chose to start, okay? We totally understand if you disagree with our assumptions, okay? But we've tried to put a lot of thought into these and research them, and we've tried to make them reasonable and realistic, okay? So we'll move on. Let's look at membership. We have our membership numbers are actually what I consider pretty reasonable. We start off 2016, well, we end 2016 at 279. Okay, 2017, and I've got the wrong page. Sorry, apologize. 2017, at the end of 2017, we have a net change of 3 because we feel like we're going to lose attrition of 15 that we have on an annual basis, plus we're going to lose 15 people because of the project for whatever reason they don't want it. That's 5% of our members approximately. So if that is a good number or not, I don't know, but that's the number we've used, and that's how our numbers are based on. We also, and then we've gone up, so we only get to 282 here. Okay, so we're not talking about a giant membership jump. In 2018, we go to 297. In 2019, 309. In 2020, 318. And in 2021, we get to our 326 magic number, okay? So that's a pretty steady, slow growth that we're anticipating. We're not trying to front load it or anything like that. We're trying to be reasonable and say, look, how many members can we really get, okay? So that's where we've come up with the membership numbers. The other thing that we've done is you look at the aquatic and the fitness. So, I mean, I think people look at that and say, well, how are you going to get these? Look, we're looking at getting 155 total aquatic athletic memberships by 2021. Okay, we're not looking at getting 300. I mean, 155 is all we're looking at total over the course of the whole period of this project. So that's what we're looking at there. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the assumptions for revenue. Apologize, hold on just one sec. Okay, so for revenue, we've tried to be conservative, okay? When it comes to food and beverage, for instance, the only increase in food and beverage we've added is their minimum food charges. We've not assumed they're buying any food. We've just added their minimum food charges for all the new members, okay? Which that's not realistic, but it's conservative and it doesn't, it gives us a little room. The other thing we've done though with food and beverage is we have added some for hosted events. We've talked with Corbett. Corbett really feels good about these numbers, and they're not, I don't think they're crazy. I mean, you can look for yourself, but I don't think they're unrealistic. We also have added some food and beverage for the pool, but it's fairly minimal. I'm going to go off memory, but I believe by 2021 it might be $20,000 as a gross, not as net, as gross sales. Okay, so we've tried to add some there, but we've tried not to go crazy. The other thing we've done is green fees and carts, we've taken no increase with the increase in membership. Now that's really unrealistic, but the idea there is that, look, in case we missed any expenses, because we feel like these will go up, they're going to trend with your membership a little bit, same as food and beverage. But they give us a little room on expenses, okay? So now let's go to expenses, Richard. when it comes to our expense assumptions, this is what we did. We took our 2017 budget and used it, oh, hello, it's green, it's green. That's not helping me, oh, sorry. Okay.
It's ready for retirement.
Anyway, we started with our 2017 baseline and said, look, this is where we'll start with our expenses. Now, increasing the clubhouse is going to have some costs. John and Corbett have gone through and they've anticipated that we would have $93,000 is what we've used as our increase in cost just to operate the clubhouse. So additional staff, additional utilities, additional insurance, all those type of things, property taxes. We've tried to anticipate that that is about what we're going to experience because of the larger clubhouse. Also, that would include costs dealing with the additional hosted events, okay? The last number that we've added is our estimated pool and fitness, okay? This is always going to be a tough one, okay? We have on our detailed information, we've given it line item amounts. While we have done that, we've taken the approach that, look, we've tried to compare what our total costs are to other clubs. Because while we may have a line item wrong, we need to make sure, as long as we feel like our total costs are close, then that's what we're basing it on. And we need to make sure our total costs are correct. And so that's what we're trying to do, is compare to other places and say, hey, is our total cost in line with what it should be, even if our utilities are wrong and they're actually insurance? You know, I've given those numbers, but they're, you know, I'm just trying to say that's not the point. The point is, do our total costs add up to what it's going to cost to operate this? And that's what we've done, and that's what we believe we've come up with. So let's go ahead and switch to the last slide, or my last slide. So here's our projected forecast net flow. As you can see, it's not like we turn on the switch and everything gets better, okay? It takes a couple years to get there. You know, 2017, it's still a little bit tight. We're a little bit low. 18, we get closer. 19, we get to that break even. 20 and 21, we start to really see the benefits. Again, we go back to the numbers now of where we're at. I mean, it's no different than our member sensitivity sheet that showed you that once we get to a certain point, then all that revenue really starts producing to the bottom line. But until we get there, life's a little bit tough. So as you can see, again, our membership numbers, pretty reasonable, pretty level, I think, you know. But anyway, that's kind of what we've done with our projections. Hopefully that answers some of your questions as to how we've come up with our projections. Okay, I'm sure there'll be more, but that's kind of where we go from there. So thank you.
Okay, appreciate that, Brian. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'm here to talk about that small thing of $1 million that we're supposed to come up with. So how do we come up with $1 million? It's a good question. We've explored a lot of scenarios. Outside of a bake sale or selling cookies, what can we do? And I think you've heard of a couple of our explorations. We have looked into what we would call gold or silver memberships. These are lifetime memberships. Now, 40-year memberships, I'm sorry. Well, my lifetime. They're definitely my lifetime membership. These memberships are very attractive, and they bring a lot of things to the person that buys them. I don't know if we've told you, but there will be a booklet for you on your way out the door or previous to you leaving tonight that'll tell you about all this. I don't want to go into everything that a gold or a silver membership will offer, but this would be one of the ideas we would have to come up with this. They will be, as you can see, sold for around $100,000. So if we can sell 7 of them, and we have had interest in these, then we're getting close to our $1 million. Private equity financing. This would be, say, you had $50,000 sitting in a bank account right now earning 0 interest. Would you be interested in putting that into our club, and we would pay you an interest charge? As it sits right now, all of our projections do not have any of that any of that projected into them, okay? Or, obviously, we could go with a capital assessment. Now, your board approached this as if a capital assessment was off the table. It's interesting that we've had several members come to us and say, just assess us. We don't want to offer this type of thing to anybody, just assess your membership. That would be a little over $3,000, $3,500 per member as it sits right now. Not saying that's the way we would go, but those are some of the items we've explored to come up with our down payment. Appreciate your time.
We want to make sure to honor everyone's time. We understand, we appreciate everyone coming out tonight, getting across the parking lot into the building is always a trouble. But again, thank you for the interest. It kind of blows us away. I think we were figuring 50 people would be a good turnout. So this is excellent. Thank you. But we do want to get to your questions and answers. And we also want to acknowledge that if there's any questions you have, any comments you have, any complaints you might have, we've set up a new email address that we'd ask you to please send us an email. We'll get you a response. We'll also post that on a blog that we have or a forum that we have so everyone can see the answers that we're providing. We want this to be a completely transparent transaction. We don't want to hide anything from anybody. We want to make sure we have a good consensus from everybody. So I'm going to start out with, again, we're going to probably try to keep this to 7:30. If you are interested in staying longer and talking to any of the board members, I'm sure we are all willing to stay and talk. But let's take some questions. Dave. Oh, John wants to show a video really quick. One moment.
Is it family friendly? It is. As I was doing some continuing education with the PGA, hey, Richard, get that on that screen. At the end of one of the educations, there's a gal that conducted this online course. She's a professor at Cornell University, and she talks about this, and I kind of dropped my water glass and was so taken by what she has to say in real life terms that I felt it was very appropriate for tonight.
The Kodak moment. You remember Kodak. It was a company. Let's take a Kodak moment. You remember Kodak. It was a company up here in Rochester, New York, that at its prime had 146,000 employees. What happened to Kodak? Of course, it went into bankruptcy in 2012 and came out of bankruptcy a year later at a much smaller size. Kodak was a film company that somehow missed the transition to digital photography. But the sad thing is that digital photography was invented at Kodak. So how could a great company like Kodak miss the moment? And the answer is simple. They were so good at what they had always done that it was very, very hard for them to change. You do not want to be a Kodak. It's time to change. The world has changed, and it's now necessary to incorporate strategic revenue management into your skill set. We don't want to see you have a Kodak moment. Instead, adjusting and adapting, thinking differently about the golf industry holds great promise for your future. There's an old African proverb I like a great deal. It goes, when the music changes, so does the dance. You can bring a few good old moves to the new tune, but it's time to change. Good luck.
Is that an aha moment? Huh, we're not alone.
So I saw a question here. Do we have the hand mic, the other handheld? The corded mic? Okay. Corded? No, I would suggest we have one out here. Yes, you do. Yes, you need a mic.
Okay, for 10 years, we've been paying a modest $40 a month in a capital assessment charge. And the question is, does that build up, or is that just rolled over annually, or are any of those funds actually exist?
That's a great question. Let me try to address that. Essentially, we spend $100,000. We generate $100,000 approximately. Brian will correct me. $100,000 a year. We assess $100,000 a year, and we spend $100,000 a year on capital. So there is no net benefit. We actually, over this last year, decided to enforce I think a 20% or some number, so we actually start putting money away because we hadn't been doing that. We've been spending exactly what we've been getting in. So the capital assessment, the $40 we've been getting, just continues to pay for the course. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Carl, do you want to just introduce yourself for everybody so they know who you are? And I know who you are.
Oh, you know who I am? No. All right. My name's Carl Sorman. I've been a member here for 35 years. I was president in 1986, I think.
Hold on.
Oh, you're kind. You're very kind. One question I had that Brian brought up was that in your 3.1 million that we're talking about for this project, is that he did mention that you have a contingency amount incorporated into that number. I'd like to know what that percentage is.
Works out to be about 15%. Our construction cost is 3.2, something like that. And then we add in $480,000 for contingency. So it's approximately, rough ballpark, 15% or something.
I'd say that's probably half. I've done that for 25 years. That was my job. At this stage, you need to be looking at 30 to 35% contingency on whatever it is we're going to do.
All right. Good comment, Carl. Thank you very much. Mike, sorry. The guy back there in the blue shirt. One moment. Remember to introduce yourself, please, fine folks.
Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. For those of you who don't know me, my wife and I joined about a year ago and have loved every moment that we've spent up here at the country club. My wife and I are both avid golfers, and we're pretty passionate about being up here at the country club. We drive from Blackfoot regularly. I guess a couple of questions. My wife and I joined because of the junior membership option initially. My first question is that going away, or is that changing? I didn't see anything about that. Now, we wouldn't care. We'd still love to support it and be here no matter what, because we've just absolutely fallen in love with it. So I guess that was my first question. My second thing is just a comment. I think my wife and I, being millennials, we don't really fit the prototype because we golf probably 100 times a year and we love to do it. But when we talk together, I want all of you to know that from my perspective, and from people we've talked to, I can't tell you how excited we are about this project. So I just want to say that I'm really grateful for the board for putting this together. When you look at people our age and people we associate with who would be willing to commute, who would love to golf, but even if they didn't, the type of amenities that we're talking about here, we have something that's not in common with a lot of you, but I think we're probably your target demographic when you look at age and some of the other things that maybe are something that would make a good member. And so I would hope that those of you who are maybe on the fence would maybe come talk to me or ask some questions, because I do think this is something we should get behind and support, and we'd be very proud to do so.
Thank you, Michael. For simplicity, what we did was just show you the family membership cost, but there was actually still that same tier. We'd have a membership or a family membership, we'd have a junior, a single, and even a legacy still. But we just didn't, for simplicity, we didn't want to get in all the detail, but it is in the book. It is in the handout. So tonight, one of the things I think it was said, but we have a handout. Please pick it up. It goes through all the details, all the assumptions. Everything's laid out in gritty detail. Yes, sir.
I'm John Dunker, and my wife's Ann. We're probably on the other end of the membership side. We joined here in September. Ann and I have been married for 50 years. We've had 14 interstate moves. This is the 7th country club we've belonged to. And I think of all the country clubs that we've been in, and we've been very active in them. Actually, Ann was chairman of the board of Glenmore Country Club in Denver. One of the things that we see in country clubs, our business, our nonprofits, or whatever, young people are your viable future. If you don't appeal to young people with what they want and what they do today, it's going to be a very difficult thing to move ahead. So we're looking at an opportunity where you want to see little kids come to the swimming pool, get them on the golf team, get them active in the club. And then we also, the other thing that we noticed in clubs that we belong to, your full golf memberships, a good portion, probably most of them, come from your social and your athletic members that move up. So we're very excited about it. You know, we're brand new, but we've been in country clubs all over this country, and I think this could be really, really a great one. You've got a good golf club here now. This could be a great country club, and we hope everybody will join together and get some more of these millennials to join up with us. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that comment. Mr. Potter.
Just to expand on what Mr. Dunker was saying, it's interesting he would say that. The research that we did through a lot of clubs and through the McMahon Group and our studies is they said, make sure when you're structuring your memberships, you create a tiered membership to do just exactly what Mr. Dunker was saying. Create kind of an a la carte menu, if you could call it that, for your members to choose what it is they want. Don't shove it down their throat. Don't force them to pay for things they don't want. So a dining member might move to an aquatic to one of our athletic, and then so forth. So it's interesting he points out exactly what the industry leaders recommended, how we structure it, and that's what we did.
One of the things you'll find in our membership description is that we're starting to offer in the athletic, to support that. In the athletic, if you become an athletic member, you know, it's like, I don't know how many, there's some number of opportunities to golf here at the course. Same with the aquatic. So again, we're just trying to give them a little bit and entice them to up their membership. Next question, right here. Oh, right here in front of me.
I'll take it there. John Piccolo here. We've been members, Monel and I have been members for like 32 years. I have one simple thing to say. It's about time. It's way overdue. I was headed up the committee about a dozen years ago that looked at doing this the first time around, and the Great Recession stopped all of that action. So I'm really thrilled that we're doing this, and I hope everybody supports it.
Thank you. Thank you for the support. Right here.
My name's Rick Staten. Some of you know me, most don't, but I'm fairly new to the club. I guess the question, there's a couple questions, but one first, before I go down that path, is I'm probably one of the few people that are up here the least. Right, John? Pretty close.
I would never argue with
Right, right, thank you. So from a diversity aspect, I get it. But, you know, so I guess what I'm saying is golfing is not the attractor for me. Aside from that, so there's several municipalities in the valley that have pools. Have you gone to any of those and asked why they can't make a profit?
That is a great question. I know we've talked with Apple, we've talked with another little community pool, but I'm not sure if we've talked with any individual. Todd?
It is an enigma because I assume when you state that the municipalities aren't making a profit at their pool, that you would know. I honestly don't know. But we can tell you Apple is so full because we've talked to those people. So if the municipality pool isn't getting the members, why would Apple get the members? I don't know if it's because you feel like you get something for your money, but I do not know if I think Ammon just expanded their local pool. I do not know if it's actually not making money or not, but I can tell you Apple is now saying that they will limit the amount of people that can come into their pool. They were allowing members, and then they would get a non-member to go along. A non-member to go along with them. They're not going to allow that anymore.
I can speak to the profitability of the pools in this area. My company did a feasibility study, or paid a company to do a feasibility study for a water park that we want to bring to this city. Idaho Falls has 800, on average, 800 people go through their city pool a day. So that actually is profitable. It isn't subsidized by the city of Idaho Falls, and I can provide our feasibility study to anyone who asks about it. As far as City of Ammon, they don't release those statistics. We built the splash pad for them this year, and they haven't released their profitability, but from the amount of people they get, it's likely that it's not subsidized.
And just a reminder, one of the things we're trying to accomplish with this project is to differentiate ourselves from the subsidized golf courses, right? We want to be different. They don't have swimming pools. The swimming pools don't have golf courses or dining rooms or dining areas. So that's what we're trying to do here, is to differentiate ourselves and offer a competitive product that competes with Apple, with the municipalities, with the city golf courses. Next question. Mr. Hill.
Thank you. My name is Richard Hale. A few weeks ago, your president, Jeff Neiswanger, called me and Randy Kern and Tom Romrell to a special finance committee meeting that was held, and it was specifically to talk about the project and more about the financing of it. That was my biggest concern, was whether or not it worked. And I've got to say, first of all, I'm so impressed with how much information the board has accumulated and put together. You saw this presentation tonight, incredibly well done, and with a lot of work into it, especially Brian Cornelison. My gosh, he sent me his work papers, how he came up with all of his projections and everything, and I don't know how many of you ever have multiple Excel worksheets that you have to integrate back and forth, but if any of you have ever done that, you know that it's not an easy task. And Brian's done an amazing job on it. And I think that you can look to these numbers that he's presented tonight as being credible. Randy, Tom, you guys correct me if you disagree with anything that I'm saying. But what the board asked, what Jeff and the finance committee asked the three of us to do, and I know why they asked Randy and Tom to join in that. I'm not sure why they asked me, but nobody knows the finances of the board better than Randy Kern. He's been president a couple of different times over the last 20 years, been on the board most of those years. And in fact, when we sat in that finance meeting, he was rattling off all these numbers. He had his file with all these historical numbers, and I mean, a terrific resource is Randy Kern. So I know that all of us would want to look to Randy and what he would have to say about this project. As far as Tom Romrell, Tom's banking experience, particularly in the real estate, I think, is going to be very valuable to this club to look to him for the long-term financing to make sure that it works. Bottom line, again, you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, but our concerns, and I sent a kind of a summary of our concerns to the board, principally is we just want to just caution everybody to be careful with these different types of memberships, you know, to raise this $1 million. The $1 million, you got to get the $1 million or it doesn't work. And they already mentioned that tonight. If you do these kind of memberships, all you're really doing is giving up some future cash flow from those memberships. And if you factor that out, you know, you take if $6,000 a year per membership, and if they were these 100,000 ones you're talking about, help me out with my math, but you take 6,000 times a year is approximately about what all of us spend on average, some more, some less. So that's $60,000 a year, right? Am I okay? Times 40 years is $2.4 million. So that's future cash flow that you are giving up in order to get $1 million right now. Now maybe that's worth it. You know, the board will have to make that assessment. But we're just cautioning you about that, consider that. And that would, then your other option about some sort of, hey, if you got some money sitting in the bank that you're not getting very much interest on, you'd be interested in loaning it to the club, great for you, but all that is just more debt. It's just more debt. We have got to get some skin in this game. We've got to get some skin in it. And so our recommendation is a capital assessment, the $3,600 or whatever the board determines. But that's our recommendation, that's the way that the club goes. You know, the board will make a good decision, and we'll all somehow support them in what they're doing. But that was the conclusion that we came to, is that that's the best, is to basically have a capital call. In checking individually with some of the other clubs that they mentioned in the area who have done projects like this in the past, and some of you who have been members of other clubs, anytime you do a project of this nature, you gotta have capital. No, 100% financing is something that just doesn't work. And it will not work here because, again, with some advice from our bankers, you aren't going to get a loan unless you got some equity. So I think that's our conclusion for what it's worth. But again, we really appreciate what the board's done. They've done a remarkable job, and we'll see where this takes us.
We certainly appreciate those comments, and I appreciate you guys' time too. I know it's time out of your schedule to help us out and make sure, just do a gut check, make sure we're in good shape. I think we've been struggling with the same thing you've been struggling. We don't want to give away the club. We want to, give lifetime memberships away, but at the same time we realize we can't be 100% debt financed. So it's just, what is that balance, and what does it look like, and what is the membership going to be able to agree with. Just a quick question or a quick comment back to, I think, and Brian, we did in our model consider the 7 members or whatever that we lost, but you're fully correct. Over time, if you look at that, it's $2.4 million over the 40 years. You discount that back today, it's probably not the $1 million that you're looking for. But equity is always more expensive than debt. So let me get, there's a question back here, and I'll come back to you. One moment.
I'm Steve Larson, and I've been a member of this club since 1973, off and on. I went through the time when we had a nice swimming pool here, and then I watched them fill it in with cement, build a big patio, which is a good idea. Now we're looking at 1.2 million or so for a swimming pool, and I'm a member of Apple, and I don't see anybody swimming out there in their open pool. now. And I haven't seen anybody swimming out there for quite some time, and I spend a lot of time there. And so I'm just wondering, unless you end up putting some kind of cover on this pool, it's not going to be usable very long. We've got a weird kind of weather system here, and unfortunately, and I have a little bit of a trouble of spending half of the money on a pool. It's just especially after we filled one in. So anyway, that's my take.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been wondering the same thing. So if we can figure out the mystery behind why the pool was filled in, there's been lots of reasons. Brian, did you want to add something? Did you want to? Did Brian, you want to add something to that?
Just real quick, absolutely, Steve. And we tried to research that a lot. And when Mr. Piccolo gave his comments, we actually were looking into this, and I was under the same impression we ought to put a cover on it. And every club we talked to said, don't do it. You'll spend so much money heating and doing, and after the kids go back to school, they won't use it. By design, our pool will be open for 14 weeks. We'll open it on Memorial Day, and we will close it on Labor Day. That's obviously to control costs, both heating it, insuring it, and labor. And it is an awful lot of money, for that. No question about it. We believe they sell memberships, and other clubs have had success doing it, but I'd love to cover it myself, but they told me don't do that.
All right. Brian, did you want to add something? One moment. You're next.
So while I understand your question about a covered pool, all of the clubs that we visited, and I visited 4 in Utah and I visited 1 in Boise, all of them are in warmer climates than ours, but theirs are only open 14 weeks also. They open on Memorial Day, close on Labor Day. Doesn't matter that their weather's good. You know, in Boise, they could keep that thing open longer at Crane Creek, but they don't. They close it down. Those are when they use it. And I wish I could remember the comment that my brother, the general manager at Crane Creek, used about the pool, but it's one of the best. It's one of their best facilities to help generate revenue for them. So,
and if you do look at our financial model, I mean, we are projecting. I mean, there's the pool cost, which is essentially $250 a month, June, July, and August. But then there's the monthly minimum, food minimums that we're talking about, and the capital assessment as well. So they are a year-round member that is using the pool for 3 months.
One other thing that really throttled me when we looked into these is I think we're forecasting $20,000 or $30,000 in revenue in our pool, and that is probably about 30% of what almost every other pool facility at a club that they say they generate in food and beverage revenue. A couple of them are boasting $160,000 to $170,000 in annual revenues over a 3-month period, which blew my mind. They've submitted it. When I talked to Hillcrest, Norris Sturgeon, who filled this pool in, and I asked Norris why he did it. And Norris said there's a couple of reasons why. One, its location was horrible. The gals that would sit out by the pool, all the men and all the women inside could see out and gawk at them, and it made them very uncomfortable. And it was a poor location. It was also a poor location in relation to teeing areas, and it came under disrepair, and it was cheaper to fill it in. So there are some revenue benefits to them, you know, when it comes to food and beverage, but ours will be 14 weeks.
All right, Brian, here one moment.
I'm Brian Hill. I've been a member for 30 years and was president in 1996. Right there in the middle.
Hold it. Where's the young guy?
Oh, right there. Right by you're right there. There you go. Anyway, I just have an accounting comment I want to make about these long-term memberships. If you're looking at that to bring equity to the picture, from an accounting standpoint, it is not equity. It's a deferred revenue. It shows up as a liability on the financial statement. So you put $1 million in the bank and you put $1 million liability on the balance sheet and your equity didn't increase by 1 penny. Now, bankers may look at that differently. I'm not a banker, but from an accounting standpoint, generally accepted accounting principles, you don't add equity by selling those memberships.
Thank you, Brian. And Mr. Cornelison, do you have any response to that? He's right. Okay. I was hoping you'd say nope, he's wrong. But I'm just an engineer, so what do I know? David, I just want, before you go back to seconds here, it's coming up to 7:30. Okay, it's coming up to 7:30. I do want to again honor everyone's time, and make sure we get everyone's questions answered and comments made. But just realize we're coming up on time. So I think we've got one, and then Wally, and then Dave, and then Dave. Okay. I got four in front of everybody. Okay.
John, I don't know who you talked to about your swimming pool, but I had a swimming pool in my home for 35 years. So I can talk from experience. If you don't put a solar pad on that pool to retain the heat at night, you lose all your heat at night that you gain during the day. It won't work. You've got to have a solar pad on it, and the months that it's not used, then you need a complete cover. They're not that expensive. It's worth the money, and whoever told you otherwise, I would like to. Okay, but I thought you mentioned covers. Okay, if you're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking a building. There's been that's the confusion. We were talking a completely enclosed or even a roof or something. All right, I think I promised it to Mr. Crockett, and then Wally, and then Dave, and then.
Hi, I'm Wally Gruhl. I've never been a president here, and I don't want to be. I don't know how long I've been a member because I've had so many wives. Every time you start a new wife, you start your membership over, right? But now, on a serious note, look, I have some issues with what they're presenting. I don't know if people will drive 7 or 8, 9 miles to come out and use this. Well, that's not right. I joined another club that's in Victor, Idaho. They have to go 80 miles because they have a swimming pool they did not use last year. They have a workout facility. There's an ambiance about being a member at a club that has facilities that nobody else has. And it cost me 80 times more to join that club than it costs to join this club. We are the best value anywhere I've seen, right? Any of you that have joined other clubs know there's not another club that I've seen that has a value to join that this club. And if we don't get behind here today, behind this project, 50-some years ago or 40-some years ago, there was people, most of you are in the room, had the vision to put this club in. And I've got to use this thing, I think, for a lot of years. They won't tell me how many. But I want to make sure that 30 or 40 years from now, there's other people in Idaho Falls that can be a member of this club and be proud of what we brought to this community that is not here today. So I hope you'll get behind this.
Thank you, Wally, for the comments. Dave.
Great. Thank you. I'm Dave Adler. I've been a member here for about 5 years now. I play a lot. I love this golf course. I strongly favor the proposition here. I was very glad to hear my fellow millennial from Blackfoot mention that he and his wife had joined. Okay, I can wish. But because I've been thinking about that, how many millennials might there be within a 20, 25-mile radius who would be willing to join this, to bring their kids to this opportunity? And I think that there have to be at least 5 more people, 5 more families in Blackfoot, 5 in Rigby and Madison who would come, which gets us to that magic number of 10. From there, it's easy to get to 20. So I don't perceive the great risk that some fear. Plus, I agree with everything that Wally and other proponents have said tonight. Years ago when I lived in Pocatello, I was a member of the Juniper Hills Country Club for years with young kids, and we loved it. It was great for a family opportunity to play golf, to swim, to play tennis, and it was an economic driver for the restaurant, for the shack where they sold hamburgers and milkshakes. But here's another benefit that I have not yet heard about a club with young kids. I know for a fact that there were many young members at Juniper Hills who grew up and purchased memberships. That's a legacy. I think that can happen here as well. If you get young kids involved, they grow their families. We know in this area that a lot of people are prone to stay in eastern Idaho. We like that. Kids stay here, a lot don't move away, so why not give them the opportunity to have access to a club with a pool and a workout facility? So I see all kinds of pluses here, and I have to believe in this room tonight that there are at least 10 people that would buy a $60,000 membership for 20 years, and that puts us 60% of the way toward $1 million. I'm not sold on the idea of an assessment of $3,600. It seems steep, and here's why. I see that as political prescription for fighting against this, because that would be too steep for a lot of members, and I think it might derail the proposal. So I would oppose a $3,600 capital assessment for, if I'm right in understanding what you said, only for the reason that we might lose people and thus suffer a further decline. I'd rather see some combination of the sale of these long-term memberships and an assessment at a somewhat lower figure. I don't want to see a program or a device to be instituted that's going to undermine the very idea that we're pursuing here. So I'm strongly in favor of it. Really appreciate the leadership of Jeff Neiswanger and the other members of the board. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Back to the philosophy that the board was really trying to attain here was we didn't want to impact those members that enjoy their golf, enjoy the price point that they're at, and don't want to move on. So that's why we've been struggling, Dave, with the capital assessment, because exactly that. But we're willing to consider anything. Again, the board is here to benefit the club, make this place a better place for all of us for longer periods. Dave, I think you had the last. No. Okay, you're good. One question or one comment.
You know, one of the things we've looked at is the drive, and we're a long ways from the city. My wife and I are real estate agents, and I can tell you they've put in a new sewer line out here. You are not far out of the city limits. Our house was 3 miles from the city limits when we built in 2000. We're half a mile. You do this, and in 10 years, you're going to have subdivisions out here in these fields with the people joining this club to use the facilities to work out rather than drive to town, because it will be closer to their homes, not further away.
If you could just hook me up with whoever's selling that land now, so I can get that beforehand, that would be good. Yeah. All right. I want to make sure we want to honor your time again. Again, if there is a last comment, but let me just again emphasize. Please send comments, questions, complaints, bitches, moans, whatever to IFCC. Expansion at IFC Country Club. Okay, and then John, then.
On our website, under the proposed construction tab, we had a Q&A blog. It was horrible. I know some of you may have gone in there to use it. It's been, if it isn't fixed tonight, it will be done tomorrow. They've turned it into more of a forum-based. You'll just simply be able to go on there, click on it, ask a question. It goes back to this email address, and your leadership team will answer that question. And they will remain on there in a forum-type format. You can go on there, see what questions are asked, how they were answered. It's a lot better, so we really like to utilize that as a communication stream.
Thank you, sir. I'll give you, not the last word, because I want the last word, but 2 minutes. I'll be last. Okay, good.
Dave's a good friend, and he spoke a little bit against the assessment way to raise the $1 million. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I'll tell you, I paid $500 to join the club 22 years ago. In a letter that was read at the earlier meeting, I made the statement that the way we've been doing it and making joining this club really, really expensive with discounted rates and no joiner fees, it hasn't worked. Brian's numbers show it. Brian's numbers are right, and I don't think that's the right way to do it. But I'm going to make a comment to the board that if you decide to raise $500,000 with, I'm going to use the word super memberships, and you assess us $500,000, so that assessment is roughly $1,800. The board at the same time has to set the floor for the joiner fee at $1,800. The reason people leave is they don't have any skin in the game. They don't walk away. When you join and you pay, you know, I agree, $500 was a hell of a deal when I joined. There's a few people in the room that paid nothing, and they're still here. Thank you very much for still being here. Not many of you are. But I think the board has to look seriously, depending on how they raise that $1 million. People who join the club got to have skin in the game from day one. If they walk away after the year, they don't get any of that back. So pick the number. The group of 3, and we appreciate the invite, our position was assess me $3,600 and set the floor for a membership to join at $3,600. My opinion.
And if you compare, I travel a lot for work, and I was comparing because if we have to move, I'm going to go join another country club because I love this life, right? But man, it's expensive, right? $8,000, $15,000 for, $200,000. We found a nice place in Hawaii. I think it was only $750,000. Anyway, so I agree with you. We've been cheap. I think that the board has recognized that we've been cheapening this product. Okay. Next week we have a detailed review of the financial. It's a financial workshop next Wednesday, January 18th at 6 p.m. Please only take one. We only have enough for one family per household, but what we have in here is all the financial models, and if you don't want to read it at night, that's fine. You can just leave it on the table. We don't expect you to take it. But if you want to see what all the assumptions are, understand what our models were, the revenue, expenses, so forth, please take one of these handouts, and then the presentation that we presented, well, it's pretty close to the presentation we presented, is also attached. So thank you so much for your participation and your comments and your questions and just the passion that this club has. Thank you. The information is not on the website. Not this. Okay, can I go throw this out?